Hey y'all, I'm Jennifer with Sweet Pea and Peonies Designs, and today I'm going to show you how I made this simple New Year's wine tumbler. All the products that I used will be listed and linked in the description box below. And if you see that little tiny logo on the right hand corner in the bottom, if you click that, it'll allow you to subscribe. Subscribing lets me know that you're liking the projects that I'm putting out, and if you hit the notification bell, that means you'll never miss another video from me. Let's go ahead and get started. We're starting out with a 16-ounce fat bottom wine tumbler from Craft Haven. As you can see on the left, I have a box from one of my other tumblers, and I have the lid open, and then the pink thing is a vinyl scraper device that I am just putting a fine Sharpie marker on top of and taking the point of my Sharpie and pressing it up against the cup and then turning the cup with my left hand. I will say I probably did this 3 or 4 times because I think the curvature of the wine tumbler kept giving me uneven lines when I would turn the cup. But we made it happen. I will say it is a lot easier when you do it on a non-tapered cup, something that is completely straight. Now I'm going to take some electrical tape and just line it up against that black line that we created with the Sharpie. So when I first started taping off my tumblers, I ended up leaving that black line from the Sharpie, which means when I epoxied, the line was under the epoxy. So after I go around the whole cup and put my electrical tape, I'm going to go ahead and cut the extra roll off like that, and then I will lay down the tape that is sticking up, and then I'm actually going to take my hand, and I don't know if I have this in the video or not, I don't, but I actually took my hand and rubbed the line off of the tumbler, so that way when I go to epoxy, there's no Sharpie underneath my epoxy. So now I'm prepping my cup. I used a 120 grit sanding block, and I am just sanding the entire tumbler. You want to make sure that if you're going to tape off your cup, that you tape it off before you sand, because you don't want to have any of the sanding marks on the part of your tumbler that you're not going to glitter and epoxy. Now we're spray painting. I'm just using a flat black from Rust-Oleum, and I'm just spraying it and twisting my cup and turning it the entire time while I'm spraying it. I will say I show the bottom of this cup. I forgot to put some painter's tape at the bottom, so I did have some overspray on the bottom of my tumbler like that. It was easy. I just took some acetone and wiped it off, but next time I will put some painter's tape on the bottom to have to avoid, so that way I can avoid that whole step. Now I mixed up 5 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, and I am just spreading the smallest amount that I can on this tumbler. I don't want to have too much on there because that will create pooling, and if you have too much epoxy when you go to glitter, it's going to go over your glitter, and when you go to put your first layer of epoxy over your glitter, you're going to see it. So put as little as you can and just make sure the entire cup is coated fully. That's all you need. I probably use maybe 1.5 milliliters of epoxy out of that 5 mils. So now I'm just going around and smoothing it out completely and making sure that every inch of this cup has epoxy on it where I'm going to glitter. So I'm using Athena. It's a chunky gold mix from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I am sprinkling it really heavy on the bottom, and then I'm going to fan it up. So now I'm tilting my tumbler with my left hand, tilting the tumbler down, like the opening of the tumbler is tilted down, and I'm just very lightly sprinkling my gold glitter on the tumbler because I want to create some sparseness in that glitter. You can also see that my glitter shaker is really high up. It's not even in the camera view right now. So I'm tilting my tumbler down and I have my shaker really high up, and this is going to allow that glitter to fall and kind of spread out instead of being concentrated in one area. So I tapped off that extra glitter. Now I'm using Goddess. It is the fine cut of Athena. It's another gold. Again, I am sprinkling it really heavy in that bottom area. And then now I'm doing the same thing. I'm tilting the tumbler down. My shaker's really, really high up, and I am sprinkling it. I'm tapping it with my finger, my index finger, and just allowing some of that glitter to fall, and it's going to fan downwards. I'm going to tap off the extra of that glitter and get any of it off. And if I feel like I need a little bit more, that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding it a little bit more in places that I feel I need a little bit more coverage of that glitter. Whenever I'm happy with it, I'm just going to tap off the top of my tumbler with some scissors and just get any of the extra off. Now I feel like I want a little bit more chunky in there, kind of where the glitter starts to decrease, kind of towards the middle of the cup. And as you can see, I just took a little pinch in my finger of this chunky glitter, and I'm just ever so lightly sprinkling it in the places that I think that it needs to go. This is all personal preference. I wanted a little bit more, fanning of the glitter up the cup. Now I'm taking a piece of parchment paper and I'm just tapping the cup to get any of the chunky glitter that's not laying flat, get it to lay flat. So after I did that, I did spray seal this with Rust-Oleum 2 times clear. And I don't know if you can tell, you probably can, but my epoxy repelled. I have no idea why, but it did. Now I'm using CCDIY's Quick Coat. I wanted to try something. I'm using their Quick Coat to seal in my glitter because I've heard that friction causes micro bubbles or air bubbles. So if you have some chunky glitter that's kind of poking up and you go and rub your epoxy over it, sometimes that can create air bubbles under that glitter. You go and torch your cup, it looks beautiful, there's no air bubbles, everything's great. And then when you come back after your cup is dry, you have air bubbles and you're thinking, where did they come from? Because it didn't have any. So that's where they came from. So I'm trying to seal in my glitter and make sure that the cup is a little bit more smooth than it would be if I didn't seal it in, and see if that helps with air bubbles. So I will let you know later on in the video if I feel like it helped. So that's what I'm doing, just taking the Quick Coat and laying it on my entire cup, and then I'm gonna let this dry. I think I put a thicker coat because usually it dries within 45 minutes and it was not dry. So I just let it go and sit and spin until it was dry. Otherwise, your epoxy will be cloudy if you put it over wet Quick Coat from CCDIY. This is 20 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy mixed up, and I'm just gonna go ahead and coat my entire cup, adding a little bit at a time and smoothing it out. I'm going to focus on that top rim, and then I also want to make sure that I focus underneath my glitter and above that electrical tape. So with this electrical tape, I have been taking it off after each step that you've been seeing, and then reapplying it before the next step. So after I did the Quick Coat, I took the electrical tape off, and before I put this epoxy on, I reapplied it. With this a little extra ink epoxy, I waited about 20 minutes after I put the epoxy on, and then I took my tape off. So now that it's all, my epoxy's all on there, I'm using a kitchen torch, and I'm just gonna torch this entire cup. I know a lot of people use a big torch. I like the little torches better. It works better for me. I don't get a lot of fish eyes. So now after that coat dried, it took probably 4 or 5 hours. I really wasn't paying attention, to be honest. I was doing other stuff. But once it was dry, I went ahead and sanded the top rim, and I also sanded any little pokey bits that I had around the bottom of the cup. I had like maybe 1. So now it's time for my decal. I got this off of Etsy. I'll have it linked below. I had a lot of trouble weeding this. Now I did use a piece of transfer tape that I had used for another project, so maybe that was my problem. I needed a fresh piece of transfer tape, but this is the decal. I got it weeded, and here it is on the cup. I think it's really cute, and it makes me so excited for the new year. Can't wait. So after that, I went ahead and just added another layer of CCDIY's Quick Coat to seal in that vinyl. Because I had so much trouble weeding it, I did handle it a lot with my fingers, and I want to make sure that it is really adhered to this cup before I go in with my last coat of epoxy. So I just spread the Quick Coat all around the cup, made sure it was nice and smooth, and then I let it dry. Now I'm using a tack cloth around the entire cup. This is just something that's going to help get any debris off the surface of our cup. So when we go to epoxy it, we won't have any particles or debris, and we'll have a really nice, even, shiny coat. This is 15 milliliters from a little extra ink epoxy. And I'm just, again, spreading this all around the tumbler, making sure I focus on the top and bottom rims. The bottom of the rim is where we had taped it off. And I'm just going to smooth it out and make sure that it is covering the entire cup. I did focus a lot over that decal because I do find that the Cricut textured metallic vinyl is thicker than normal vinyl. And I wanted to make sure that it was really covered before it started drying. And then after that, I just torched it like we did earlier in the video, and it was done. Here's our simple New Year's wine tumbler. I think this came out so adorable. I absolutely love the decal. I think it's so cute. And I love the way that our gold glitter just kind of sprinkles up the cup. I think it came out so great. It's a really simple and easy project that you can knock out in a few days, especially if you have a fast setting epoxy. If you like this tutorial, please give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. Subscribing lets me know that you like the projects that I'm putting out. And if you hit the notification bell, that will make sure you never miss another video from me. I hope y'all have a wonderful New Year's Eve and a great 2022. Bye.